At 8.1 on the Richter scale, the quake that hit Mexico that September morning was one of the biggest in recent years. Most damage was done in the central section of Mexico City, where hundreds of buildings collapsed, including a third of the city's hospitals, dozens of schools, and several large apartment buildings and hotels. Jim Gribner was visiting the city.
The floor was shaking, so we ran like 3 stories down onto the street, and the street was shaking. This hotel about a block away collapsed. It was about 10 stories high, and it caught on fire.
Between 6,000 and 8,000 people perished. Hundreds of buildings were left in ruin. Volunteers looked for survivors going through the debris. A large aftershock the next day, a huge quake in its own right, collapsed more buildings and sent tens of thousands of people to live in the streets. In the days that followed, remarkable stories of survival unfolded. Babies pulled from a hospital maternity ward alive after a week in the rubble. Reuben Berra, a labor ministry worker, was pulled out after spending 4 days under tons of debris. He breathed trapped air and wet his lips with his own urine. This is Bob Fuss.
1985 was a turning point for NASA and its often criticized shuttle program. The space agency turned adversity into opportunity, doubling its flight rate to launch 15 commercial and military satellites and to repair another. In April, the SYNCOM satellite failed to activate after its deployment, and a hastily devised rescue attempt was unsuccessful. But in late August, 2 spacewalking astronauts revisited SYNCOM and hot-wired it back to life.
Looking good, buddy. All right.
At year's end, NASA's administrator took a leave of absence after being indicted by a federal grand jury for alleged activities related to his previous job with General Dynamics. But that did not diminish NASA's enthusiasm in looking forward to 1986, a year in which a teacher and a journalist will fly in space for the first time, a year in which Halley's Comet will be observed by both man and machine, a year in which the powerful space telescope will be launched to enable man to see out into the universe to the fringes of the origin of life itself. Rob Navias at the Kennedy Space Center.